that's making Europe shut down their economy and their people to pay them. Our economy is shutting down to pay the bank. So you can tell it's sort of the banks that have the government who funds the military. Like they're all working like a, they've got a mechanism working like wheels in a clock right now. The government fleeces the people for the banks and the military. That keeps everybody happy. Now the banks can wield their wishes on the rest of the world, because that's what's come to my attention. I used to think it was a little more militaristic ideology at work. We were taking over the Middle East because the people that run our world, realize that they don't like us. We ultimately can't get along ideologically. If they want honor killings for their daughters and we want our daughters to wear iPods and screw whoever they want from the time they're 13, then we're not going to be able to get along together. There's going to be an ideological conflict in the world, and so we're over there fighting to make sure that our ideology is on top, which I disagree with. My own personal philosophy is that aggressive is not needed. Simply protecting our country, simply saying this is our boundaries, this is how we do things, and don't you dare come in our territory or hurt any of the people who want to apply, just like it was in the old world. Hey, we want American values here. Man, we don't want Russia, or we don't want Hitler to come in and take us over, or Japan. We'd rather be like America. Hey, you guys help us out. Okay, we'll help you out. You need to have free elections. You need to have courts that promote justice. You need to let your people speak against what they see is going on that they don't like. In other words, you need to embrace the things that we embrace. If you want us to send money and guns and kids to help keep other people out of your business, and to a certain extent there was an international diplomacy that I believe in that way. If your neighbor says, hey man, don't let the Russians come in and just overrule us because they got the guns and we don't, help us out here. Okay, I'll help you out, but now, not you need to let us rape you of all your resources. No, you need to be another example of why our ideology is stronger. Why'd you call on us? Not just because we have a bigger military, hopefully. Not just because we promise better financial gains in the short term for your country, hopefully. But because you believe in our ideology of freedom to choose, separation of church and state. All these things are so vital to our way of life as a democracy, as any kind of republic, any kind of self-governing people. So if other people want that, why shouldn't we promote that? Even if it means coming in there and say, hey, wait a minute now, Russia or whoever you are, these people didn't ask for you, they're asking for us. So don't make it a fight between us. They want to be included in our sphere of influence, and we want to include them. So now if you attack them, if you hold a presence in their country, it's like holding a presence in our country. Theoretically, that's what we were trying to lay out in Afghanistan, except were we putting our morals and real values into Afghanistan? No. Only our guns and our putrid capitalistic, winner-take-all atmosphere. We were there for the drugs and the strategic pipeline availability. We weren't there to build schools for the people like we told them we would do. All those in the beginning when they were, okay, America's going to support us against the Russians, give us guns, and we're going to fight like mad to get that, what they're promising us. We didn't deliver. It's one of those horrible legacies that we have in so many places where we've gone in under the pretense of justice, and it's really just been a money grab, a resource grab. We do a lot of damage and we leave the place worse off because somehow we make more money from it being worse off because we get to come in and help clean up. We get to sell guns to both sides now because they're in constant civil strife. We get to make money off the money we already made. So I'm against all that imperialism. What I'm for is saying our ideals have made us strong because freedom is what people yearn for in their soul. And anyone that yearns for it, we want to back them up. But that doesn't mean we go to war to turn them into free people. They have to ask us in. They have to agree to conform their system, reform their system to a system that any American would be welcome to go to. Does this sound like Saudi Arabia? Does this just sound like the Sudan, where we aided the Mujahideen government in slaughtering millions in Darfur? No. This sounds like we don't mind helping people out if we can make a fortune off of it in the short term. But we're not willing at all to really invest in our ideology around the world, you know.
I think that's why our ideology is now failing.
Well, it's not the ideology is failing. It's become reduced in the ideology is not practiced.
Well, they're changing
it's like
something else. So
this is my point. It's like abstinence is a perfect, a perfect birth control, but nobody practices it anymore. So it's not that abstinence failed. It's that it's been decided that abstinence isn't something we should practice. We have other forms of birth control. And so it's kind of like the same thing. We haven't really tried spreading truth and justice. We went ahead from the beginning and used our power that we'd gotten to use greed and coercion to line our own coffers. That's all you can say about it. We haven't done it for anyone's benefit but the benefit of the almighty dollar. Someone had to make money for us to do anything about anything in this world, at least in the modern 100 years since the Fed's been around. And the whole world banking system now that, I mean, it's pretty easy to investigate and see that everything they touch turns to ash. It doesn't turn to gold, it turns to burnt up, used up ash. Everywhere the IMF goes, they ruin countries and line the pockets of the same few people that live on Wall Street. They spend all the George Soroses and the Warren Buffetts and those people in the world that spend all of their time moving digital keyboards up and down that increase their wealth. And none of it ever for anyone's gain but the bank accounts. I mean, that's just obvious. That's no longer conspiracy theory. That's no longer wackos like me claiming everything's pessimistic. This is now the history of the world part, wherever we're up to. This is where we're at. And the history of the world is the top few percent drive the world against the collective consciousness, who would like to just live in peace and tolerance and even love, perhaps. But the top few percent don't benefit if everybody lives in peace and love and tolerance, helping each other out, and there's no hunger, and nobody makes a fortune because they own all the corn, or they own all the wheat, or they own all the water, or they own all the housing, all the building, all the materials. Yeah, that would be terrible. If everyone owned the materials, if everyone owned everything. So, I mean, it's like you said earlier, the consciousness of the heart, so to speak, is the one that's reemerging in the world against the forces that have always been stacked against it. But now, through this modern emergence of technology and communication, the whole world is sort of having their own little harmonic convergence. They're realizing that they really do want to live in love, that there really is just a small percentage of bankers and greedy, bureaucrats that keep it that from being that way. And so it's a very interesting time. Some people are predicting revolution, and some people are predicting just change of consciousness, which I think those people don't understand that that's already taken place. The consciousness has already changed. People already realize that the arrogance of the 80s and the isolationists of the Bush sort of Aryan Nazi doctrine of somebody being better than others, somebody having manifest destiny, somebody having all while other people have nothing. Most people are realizing that that's like Buddha taught 2,500 years ago. That's an illusion. It's not real. That's not what the spirit or whatever's underlying human existence is not about. Having more than your neighbor, having the house on the hill, material possession, that's all an illusion. So we're all coming to this grip at once as we're seeing it fail, as we're witnessing it, as we've participated in it, and it's failed. Even those of us that are winning are watching it fail. So that there's such a small percentage that can claim victory right now. Everybody else is slowly conglomerating, homogenizing into a collective consciousness. But is that going to suddenly change everything? Well, we'll see. Revolution, consciousness shift. Daniel saw a peace being made in the Middle East, and that for 3.5 years really created peace in the world. Unwalled villages, all these sort of prophecies. And then halfway through, the Muslims decide to kill off the Jews finally. We didn't write that. We've been watching it for 30 years. It didn't look very realistic 20 years ago. 10 years ago, it started to look a little closer. Now here we go. The whole world's against the Jews. The Arabs are having their Arab Spring. They're about to have their most radical, clerical, anti-Israeli faction in charge of most of the people. They look like they're coming close to having their showdown for their Mideast to see who in their world is going to lead their world to destroy the infidels. I don't know. Is that a coincidence? I'm not sure, It's just we've been teaching it for a long time, and so it doesn't look like a coincidence. It looks like another piece of the puzzle that's fallen into place, and another thing to watch in this whole, how would you say, unraveling of human existence. I'm really, the last thing I'll say before the end of this interview is that I'm just astounded all the time at the number of people out there that I see and talk to that are just so positive. They're just half glass full. They're just, things are going to be okay. You just can't be a bummer. You just can't, they don't want to be depressed, so why look at what's really going on? Wow. Rome didn't last. The people that were real positive about Rome's beginnings had to live through its ending. The lords who thought that, the situation was just fantastic in France a couple of 100 years ago, probably thought that right before the guillotine came down on their necks and chopped their heads off. They were thinking, how is this possible? Well, the people aren't happy. The system isn't good. You can't just keep being half glass full when you find out, you're working for Hitler. You got to say, holy mackerel, I thought my glass was half full, but it's full of blood. Yeah. It's full of blood and, abomination. It's full of everything abominable in the world. So good luck, people.